welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video will be about my team members. My team members are the people that have helped me gain information and help me provide the most accurate information I can to you guys, my YouTube channel viewers. I have some ASL students, high schoolers learning ASL. I also have deaf adults who have been able to provide some information about themselves since they've all grown up in different situations. And I have an ASL teacher who is also my mentor for my Gold Award project, this channel. But you'll hear about all of them a little bit later. First thing I want to explain is how this is going to work. So all of the answers that you will hear or see today have been given to me pre-recorded or typed out. And so basically what happened is I sent out all the questions that I had to each individual, or I sent it to one individual and they sent it to another person. So I was able to gain a lot of different perspectives about things, which you'll hear and see later. But none of this is live in person, which means that the voices might sound weird or not as conversational as it might have been if it were an in-person interview. But I felt that this was the best way to make everyone comfortable is to give them the option and give them time to think about their answers. So some of the responses will be video and vocal responses, which means just like this, you'll hear their voice, you'll see their face. But some are only vocal, which means you won't see their face, they'll just have an icon, or they won't have anything except captions that I'll put over it. But the rest of the responses have been typed out, which means that I've received an email or a document with the answers, and me and another family member of mine have gone through and vocally recorded the responses, which means that you'll hear my voice or another person's voice, my dad's voice actually, but it won't be our responses, it will be whoever is listed on the screen at that time. I will make sure to include captions for each interview, especially if it doesn't have a face to it. Obviously I'll have my usual ASL interpretation, and the usual YouTube captions at the bottom. But yeah, I will see you in a bit. The first group that is going to answer the questions will be students. So the ASL students you'll hear from today are Elle, who is a graduated senior who graduated in the class with me, and also Dakota, who is also a graduated senior. But the first question they'll be answering is, what is your first name and how old are you? The second question is, when did you first start learning ASL?
My name is Dakota and I am 17. I first started learning American Sign Language when I was 14, my freshman year of high school. I learned the alphabet when I was in 8th grade, and it was a fun little thing to keep me entertained, but then I realized that I could take the language as an actual course, and I was pretty excited about that.
My name is Joelle and I'm 18. I started learning ASL my sophomore.
The third question is, what have you used ASL for since you've started learning? Some examples might be communicating with deaf or hard of hearing people, communicating with friends or other ASL users in specific situations, or using it for school or community projects.
Since I started learning the language, I've used American Sign Language for school projects and communicating with friends in a place that is either loud or somewhere where I don't want my conversation to be overheard.
school. I use ASL to communicate with my friends who also know ASL when we're farther away, and just in general, and also with hard of hearing and deaf people whenever I'm in public in order to help them out.
The fourth question is, do you plan to continue to use ASL in the future? If so, what will you use it for?
In the future, I do plan to continue using sign language. In fact, I'm going to college to study American Sign Language interpretation, and that obviously will require familiarization with the language and a lot of practice and application.
I do plan on using ASL in the future. I plan on getting my bachelor's in interpreting in order to become a teacher and help with the deaf community.
And the fifth and final question for the students is, what is one thing you think new ASL learners should know?
In learning ASL, I think that the most important thing to realize is that you can't learn a language if you don't know the basics. So finger spelling, numbers, basic vocabulary, even sentence structure are all super important to have a good grasp on before you try to learn everything else about the language, because without those basics, you're going to be floundering trying to understand what's going on.
Something that I would want new ASL learners to know beforehand is to definitely take time after learning it and practice recepting and understanding other people signing, but also being able to express themselves as much as possible.
Now we'll be moving on to the ASL teacher. Her name is Bethany Hayden, as she'll describe later, and she is one of the teachers that taught me ASL in high school.
Hello, my name is Bethany Hayden, and I am an American Sign Language teacher for high school students as their foreign language credits.
Her first question was, when did your interest in ASL and the deaf community start?
So I guess I would say I was in 3rd grade and my best friend's parents were both deaf. This was very new to me. And so when I went over to her house, it was hard to communicate with them. So they would write things down and I would respond, and they would teach us a few signs here and there. But that was it. And then I eventually moved to out of state. And so we kind of lost contact. But then when I was in high school, kind of thinking about what I wanted to do, I knew that I always had an interest and a passion in sign language and being around deaf people. So that it sparked in 3rd grade. But then I guess in high school is when I kind of decided that that's something I would pursue, I would continue with. And so when I was picking a college, I was looking to do something with deaf people, and deaf education presented itself. So really I learned ASL for the most part in college. I had all deaf professors.
Her second question is, were you able to learn ASL in middle or high school?
In middle or high school? No, I went to Catholic schools and all they offered was French, Spanish, and I ended up taking Latin. Imagine that. I wish it was all.
Her third question was, how have you used ASL in your personal life, outside of work or school settings?
For school settings. I've used it a lot everywhere. I mean, predominantly I use it in school because there's just not a whole lot of deaf people in my area or in our area. Yes, in DC there's tons. I just don't spend a whole lot of time there, but I could. How have I used it in my personal life? Well, I mean, obviously I teach a lot of people, but my husband actually is an ASL teacher as well, and so we communicate a lot of the time in ASL, like when we're coaching together, when we're in a room and just want to communicate without other people knowing. My husband was nonverbal until the age of 5, so he learned ASL as his first language, so we use that together. My friend's daughter is deaf, so when I communicate with her, I use ASL. A lot of people want to learn ASL.
Her fourth question is, how long have you taught ASL? Do you plan to continue teaching ASL?
Continue teaching ASL. I have been teaching ASL. I'm going into my 7th year. It is never something that I thought I was going to do. My initial idea was to be a deaf education teacher, to teach deaf children, just like general ed, but for deaf kids. So I wanted to teach deaf kids. I didn't want to be an ASL teacher. I knew that that was something reserved for deaf people. However, I was contacted by Anne Arundel County Public Schools, and they were in really high need of ASL teachers at the time. And so I moved myself from Florida back up to Maryland to do this. Didn't know how long I would do it. Still don't know how long I will do it. I always want to use ASL and be a part of the deaf community, but I do know that ASL should be taught primarily by deaf individuals, as they are available and in the system to be teachers of ASL. I learned my best ASL from my deaf teachers, for sure. So right now I am, looking to see what is out there for me to do in the near future. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love teaching ASL, but I know that there's something else I should be doing.
And her fifth and final question is there anything you want new ASL learners to be aware of or know?
Be aware of. Yes. So when you start taking ASL, if you have multiple teachers, your teachers are going to teach you different things, and that is okay. Just like accents, just like regional dialects and spoken languages, everyone's sign is going to be a little bit different based on where you learn it. Just like Spanish. Spanish spoken in Spain is way different than Spanish spoken in Mexico or in Guatemala or, Honduras. Very different regions, dialects. Same for ASL. So when you have different teachers, don't tell them they're wrong. Don't contend. It's okay to know multiple ways to sign certain things. So just be open-minded and accept that there are differences in the way that you communicate. And that's all I have for you.
Now we're moving on to the deaf adult responses. All of these responses were typed out, which means that they will be vocal recordings only from me or my dad. but I will have the captions over a black screen, which is what we recorded with. The first question is, what is your level of deafness, and if you feel comfortable, what caused it? I have severe and profound hearing loss. Therefore, I can only wear a hearing aid in the ear with a severe loss. Rubella caused my deafness, as my mother contracted this while pregnant with me. I am profoundly deaf, 115 decibels on both ears, with an unknown cause.
I was born deaf due to rubella. My deafness is congenital and is the result of my mother contracting rubella in the 13th week of pregnancy. My level of deafness is nearly profound, more so in the right ear than in the left.
I am profoundly deaf, caused by maternal rubella. The second question is, do you use ASL? If not, why? If you feel comfortable answering. I do not use ASL as I attended a school for the deaf that specialized in oral communication. I attended the school for 5 years before being mainstreamed. This plays a large part of why I do not use ASL. Yes, I use ASL.
Yes, I use ASL as one of my main communication modes because this is how I can communicate with my deaf friends and be able to have access to information through an ASL interpreter at my staff meetings and in a setting with more than 4 people. Accessing information is critical for me. I do not sign and have never really learned it. This is the result of an oral education and procrastination.
Yes, I use ASL. The third question is, if you were to start communicating with a new person that's hearing, what would your first conversation look like? I am better in letting people know firsthand that I am deaf and in specifying what is helpful. The main criteria I tell them is that if I am not looking at you, then I don't hear you. I speak like anyone would, but at the stores or restaurants, I would use gestures.
I am fortunate to have great speech ability, so conversing with a hearing person wouldn't be a problem. I was an oral individual growing up before I learned ASL. The conversation would be spoken with us facing each other so that I can read the other person's lips. It's difficult for me to converse without lip reading, if not impossible.
Pen and paper or using Big app on iPhone. They can speak to it and I read, or I can type in text for them to read. The fourth question is there anything you use specifically to communicate with hearing people, like friends or family members, that you would recommend to other deaf, hard of hearing, and or hearing people? When it comes to deaf people, I don't have to do anything specific. If anything, it's a relief to know that we can all stop one another to clarify any remarks or to ask for a repeat, knowing they will not get exasperated. For hard of hearing people, it depends on the level of hearing loss. For those hard of hearing, wearing aids that enable them to hear like a hearing person, I have to remind them that my aid does not do the same thing for me. For hearing people unfamiliar with communicating with deaf people, I am mindful of imparting the fact that they should not expect all other deaf people to be like me or for me to be like other deaf people they may know. I grew up with oralism, and I still communicate with them by speaking, but with my daughters and grandchildren, we sign 100%.
I use a speech-to-text app and device in situations when I cannot access interpreters. The speech-to-text allows me to access information through an app such as Google Transcribe, Otter, InnoCaption, or Instant Language Assistant, ILA. Other than facing them, I have no recommendation. I wear cochlear implants and they are amazing, but they are not for everyone.
I would have a one-on-one conversation. I can't do in group settings because they're fast-paced and overlapping, so one-on-one is the best way to communicate for me. And the final question for the deaf adults is, what is one thing you think hearing people should know or be aware of? The biggest thing we dislike is hearing, "I'll tell you later," or "it's not important," when we miss something in a conversation. That we need to be heard, listen to us, and unpacking hearing privileges.
Learning ASL will definitely help bridge communication between deaf and hearing individuals. Take the time to talk and get to know a deaf person. Include them in conversations. That we depend a great deal on lip reading and visual cues to aid conversations.
Hearing people should know that inclusion is very important. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. There might be a second one in the future if I can gain enough responses from more students, ASL teachers, deaf adults, or even CODAs, children of deaf adults. But that will really depend on what happens in the future. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions for me or for any of the people that you saw or heard of today, leave them in the comments below, and I'll make sure the questions get to everyone. Just make sure to leave a name in the comment to who you're asking the question to. And I hope you guys have a good day. Bye-bye.